Hi. Okay, sorry.
Not at all.
Just coming off a call there.
Not at all. Thank you. How are you?
I am good.
Great. Nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why it's taken me so long to have the opportunity to make this work, but I'm glad we finally did.
Well, great. Yeah.
Can I start off asking about how you're feeling, how you're doing? I know you just came over recently. To say a terrible bout of COVID is
I,
sounds a little bit redundant.
yeah. I had it really bad. Yeah. I mean, I was in the hospital for a month and then in rehab for several weeks and, intubated for 13 days.
My
But
goodness.
I'm terrific, really.
Yeah.
I made a somewhat miraculous recovery, really got into rehab. I just earlier today, I was like, you know what? It's not snowing yet. I'm going to get I'm trying to build up my stamina walking. And I've been back working full time.
It's
So,
remarkable. Can I ask you, were you in pretty good health beforehand? Did that help, or did you just get
um,
lucky with?
I wasn't in bad health. I have leukemia, which I've been treated for 20 years, and that may have contributed it.
Getting it?
But on the
Getting it?
other hand, I'm 78 too, and my wife is the same age, and she tested positive, but she never had a symptom, never got anything. So I don't know
Good.
whether it was the leukemia. When I was in the hospital, still in fog, and I'm hooked up to all these IVs, and I'm hearing them crushing up the pills that I take for the leukemia. It's a new wonder drug, unbelievably expensive, but and it's like, but you're doing 4 pills, but my dosage is only 3, and I overheard this. And they said, no, it says 3 right here. And my oncologist called me, who I hadn't seen, you don't see anybody forever.
Yeah, right, of
But
course.
he said, no, there's a clinical trial going on for the drug you're taking that it may be active for COVID. So you're not actually in the trial, but he says it's not going to hurt you, and who knows, it might help.
Right. You're trial adjacent though, because
Yeah,
it's sort
they
of unofficial, an unofficial.
he, he sent me the link. He wrote it up for some journal. They have these things like case studies, and so he wrote up my COVID case.
Are
Yeah.
you? Do you have your sense of taste and smell and all that? Did you
I
lose it?
never lost that. I
Okay.
didn't have those symptoms, but when I got sick, I got back from Australia. I'd been at a conference there and doing a lot of mentoring with filmmakers. So I was with a lot of people, like 1 or 2 people around a laptop computer, and this is early March. So I get back from Australia and I'm fine for a day or two, and then I'm really sick, just
Right.
really sick. And
Yeah. And it's scary because Gordon, you got it early on when
they
we
did,
really didn't have a lot of information. As I'm
they
not
didn't
telling
know.
you something you don't know. So, but I mean, getting COVID, I think in March or April is a lot different than getting it now. It doesn't mean it's any less of a major issue, but we're a little bit more. We know more, and so
They
and
did,
the doctors know more.
yeah,
More importantly.
they didn't know a lot. And I couldn't, it took me 3 days to get tested. I mean, I'm really sick and going from place to place, trying to
Yeah.
get, literally physically going to these places and then not being able to get tested. And finally, I think my oncologist, who was like, don't come here, he doesn't want me around his patients.
Of course
But he
not.
called and he said he put me on the list in the emergency room at Northwestern where I go. And I went to get the test. And before they got the results, they took me in the hospital. They took one look at me and said, oh, this guy is, and I was intubated that night.
Yeah. Wow. Well, but
But
it's
I
yeah.
recovered
Yeah. No.
without any of the kind of lingering, I, some people who, I was someone who did have hallucinations and I remembered them. And, there have been people who struggled with cognitive issues and other kinds of things.
Yeah,
I seem to have
yeah. The
really done
delirium.
very well.
Yeah, they get into a delirium. My dad had that problem. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I was delirious. Yeah.
yeah. Um, have you had a chance to see 76 Days yet?
No, I haven't. I'm very interested to see that. We are involved. I can't talk about it, but there is a film about China and the whole thing in China that I have seen. It's just not released yet.
Sure. Well,
It's not our, it's in association with us, but it's, for complicated reasons, I can't tell you anything about it at the moment. But it was,
uh, I can assure people listening or watching that by the end of this conversation, Gordon will spill the beans completely about this film referring to, because I just keep going and I break it down.
you'll get me to it, right?
Well, at least you have 76 days to look forward to it. I mean, it's also a difficult watch from an emotional standpoint, as I just had one of these Zooms with one of the three directors, the one that was based in New York City, Hao Wu, and he's Chinese American, and it was quite an intense conversation. But the film is an important film. It's an important film to see on a number of levels, because in a way, even though there might be a segment of the population that might blame the Chinese, you know, which is somewhat irrational. But the more important thing is the humanity through line. You just will everybody at this point knows somebody, right, who's gotten COVID. I mean, pretty much if you haven't gotten it yourself, you probably have somebody close to you, and or there's somebody close to you that has somebody close to them, so you have a connection. And you'll see that the folks in that Wuhan hospital are you, and they're your
And
cousin.
that what I saw in this other film, and that the medical personnel are also, it's the same. When I was in rehab, the therapists, because they're all masked up and everything, and so they would have a little badge with their picture on it so you could see their face. And there's a scene of them figuring that out in Wuhan and figuring out, we should put a picture on so they can see who we are. And they
Oh
were
yeah.
doing it, I'm an old guy, so I'm like, oh, okay, I can sort of see you. They were 8x10s, they had these big pictures of themselves on their chest. It was kind of cool.
In 76 days, another way to kind of deal with this, I don't know what you want to call it, but the gear that all the medical professionals and were wearing. Anybody who worked in the hospital, especially back in January when the
Yeah.
virus hit in Wuhan, they as little as we knew back in January, they knew less. We had we could leverage off of some information that we were getting from China by then and from other places that are already dealing with this, but they had no idea how like quickly and how ambitious this virus was. So they were like like hermetically, hermetic level of
Well,
and they would.
they had a national policy too. I mean, whatever
Sure.
problems they had compared to what it went on in America, it was just nightmarish.
Well, and I don't know if you're talking about once it became politicized. I'm even going before that, though, before we started politicizing this thing as an issue, but which was maybe 48 hours in this country,
Yeah,
but
it was
but
not long.
no, but in China, um, they were terrified, of course, but they used these outfits. They were wearing these white, smocks and
Yeah, I saw. Yeah.
bodysuits, and they would paint on the like they had somebody like drawing beautiful things on their backs, and it was another way of kind of coping.
Yeah, it's a lot of similarities. I think they were, these two films probably overlap a bit. I'll have to, I know it's on my list of things to see though. I really
Yeah,
want to see that.
I'm
And,
sure it's a must.
I got interested. There's a piece on the Good Morning America website about me and my COVID experience. I
Oh,
had some home movies and stuff. It's like an 8-minute piece. And they
is
put
that on
together,
GMA, you said?
huh?
Good Morning America.
Good Morning America's website. Yeah, if you just Google Good Morning America and me, you'll find it. Uh, and it's like a 8-minute piece about my COVID journey, and
Okay.
some selfies I took in the hospital and stuff.
That'd be a way for you to cope, I guess.
And yeah, so I in that I described that, after being intubated the second time, I was insisting I wanted to be a DNR and all of that.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I was really struggling. And I realized that I got interested in an idea for a movie, which I may or may not make, not so much about my COVID journey, but about the difficulty, about the difficulty of communication across the intubation barrier between patients and medical personnel. And that idea of having something that I still wanted to do, it was like that made me want to come back. Um, and I talk about that in that short piece.
I'll look forward to looking at it.
And next week I'm doing grand rounds with the doctor that I had the DNR drama with, because she wanted to talk me down from that position before she extubated me, and she did. And we're going to be in a panel together, like grand.
Really?
For the first
Where's
time.
that?
Yeah,
Where?
At Shirley Ryan Ability Lab. It's with their ethics department where I did rehab,
Okay.
where I spent a couple of weeks in rehab. And, for me, I'm not someone who appears in my own films. Steve James has and other filmmakers do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear my voice, maybe, but it's not really my thing. And now I'm in front of the camera around this COVID experience. And it's been interesting, that people want my story. They want to hear.
Well, interesting is a vague word, Gordon. Care to
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it's
elaborate a little?
It's different, and it's given me some insights to, from so many years behind the camera, what it feels like to be kind of in front of the camera about, not about your work, but about something in your personal life. Because obviously I'm interviewed about movies and I've had that experience, but
Right.
it's more, being interviewed and people want you to share your feelings and your fears and, all of that stuff that we're always looking for in a documentary.
Right. It's interesting. This is, you're making me think about what I'm doing myself, which is another conversation, I guess. But in a moment or just a succinct way, I try to kind of sneak it in a little bit. And if it happens, I don't really search it out. But if it does happen, it happens. It's not something I would, this is kind of about art making and about the industry of art making, but it's not exclusively that. If I get to know somebody on a personal level through this, that's a great result. But speaking of Steve James, I happened to catch a video he made, which is a fundraiser video, only kind that Steve might make, which is kind of tongue-in-cheek, where I think he said, and I don't want to put you on the spot because it's a financial thing, but there was apparently some goal of $55,000 that you're trying to raise for Kartemquin, I assume.
Okay, yeah.
And he said that you were matching people's donations.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. It's I don't know if this is clear in the thing or not, but I'm sure.
Well, you have the opportunity to clarify.
I'm sure that I can talk about it. There's an insurance policy that I had that is Kartemquin, the organization, is the beneficiary of if I die, but it's also a disability policy if I become disabled. And we've had it for so long, it pays for itself. We never have to pay anything. And it generates positive income. So there was money there that I could take out. And Jolene, before she left the ED, said, well, you got to wait and see if you have all these hospital bills and everything. And it's like, I got it all. I mean, I know I'm on Medicare. I have a supplement, everything. was covered.
You've got
Literally everything.
right.
You know, the only thing that wasn't covered is my cancer medication. You know,
Well, you said that was very costly, but
it's very, I mean, a lot of it's covered, but it's something I still have out of pocket, but I had that before. And so I'm able to take a chunk of that money from that insurance policy, which is cash. The taxes have already been paid. And then we have a donor who's also given a chunk of money. And I guess we're 55 years old, so they've made that into this fundraising thing. Yeah.
I
And
see. Okay.
that,
Steve was joking that you have your reputation about your reputation. I hope you know he.
I don't know if I saw this thing.
Oh, you should watch
I
it.
should look for it. What is
Yeah,
it?
I can. It's on his Facebook page. It's very easy to find.
I'll track it down.
I think he was kind of coaxing you, like trying to coax you a little bit. Yeah, I mean, if you watch it, you know what I'm saying. He was having fun. No, it was totally having fun with you
No,
and
he loves.
teasing you.
No, there's a lot of teasing going on. Well, when I was in the hospital, they did a thing. Just I've been being teased for 50 years for always wearing white socks, and so they did a little thing about that and put
Okay.
it up on social media.
Well, I feel left out. I feel like there's this wonderful production company in Chicago called Kartemquin Films, and it feels like um, since I'm not central to the documentary culture or community, I have to make a lot more of an effort to keep in touch with you guys. And I've been doing the podcast version of this for quite some time. So maybe 5 years ago, I had Tim on. That's been about. Oh, and Steve James, of course, has been on a number of times. So that's maybe my closest connection to it.
Well, you should also, a lot of what we do, I mean, we're kind of known for our films,
Yeah.
but we also develop filmmakers and the whole
Right.
new generation, Bing Yu, Jenny Shu, who did Finding Yin Yang. We have new films coming out, Unapologetic by Ashley O'Shea.
And she did the podcast.
Oh, great. She did.
I know that Steve was a producer on that, or executive producer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I did, what was the one from last 2 years ago now, I guess, won all the awards.
Yeah.
Asian filmmaker.
Oh, yeah. Bing.
Bing Wu.
Yeah, Bing's film, Minding the Gap, about
Minding the Gap.
Young men in skateboarding. Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite a powerful film.
Yeah.
And
terrific.
yeah.
Yeah, and he came through our Diverse Voices program, which is a program for people of color and emerging filmmakers.
So you and Kartemquin, I guess, because I remember the 50th anniversary was recently. So I'm going to guess it's around 52 years ago that the company was.
It was 5 years ago. That's why they're doing this
5 already.
Yeah, because they're saying 55 years and
Gotcha.
55,000 we're trying to raise.
I see. So, well, it sounds very hopeful.
Yeah. No, it's if we can get out of this lockdown, it's an exciting time. Although it's everybody's working. I mean, we're all zoomed out in one sense, but editing is going on. Films. I'm trying to complete a film now. There's films that are being finished. It's like people are just working from home, and there's a few people that are in the studio. Studio's basically shut down, but there's one editing room I know that they're editing in, and a few things in post that go on over there.
So what kind of space do you have there?
Kartemquin, and you can find it on the internet. We have an old building that we've owned since 1971.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 4-flat, a corner building, a storefront and 3 apartments. And we now occupy the whole thing. We didn't originally, we just occupied the top floor, but we bought it in 1971 for $21,000. So
yeah,
it's obviously, of course, we're artists, so we move into the neighborhood. That's the kiss of death for the neighborhood. It's long since gentrified.
What neighborhood is it?
It's West Lakeview.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's near it's just a block east of Damon on Wellington, which is 3,000 north.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to go onto Google Maps after
Yeah.
this, I guess, and start doing my retroactive homework. But yeah, it's been a long time since I've been to Chicago now. So, but I keep threatening a trip over there and to check out your offices there. But you have so you have the editing facilities there,
We
and
do. But you know, of course, that's changed now, and more
yeah,
people are able to work at home, or
sure.
so
But it has to be much more beneficial to be in an editing unit at
absolutely.
Kartemquin, where you have all these mentors as well as
And
other
just,
editors.
yeah, and people in the next room working on something. So that is, you know, when we moved from film and then to tape and then to digital, you know, there was a point where in the digital point, people were starting to work more from home, and it wasn't worth them while to rent an editing room. But little by little, people started coming back for that atmosphere to be, you know, connected
Sure.
in a creative space.
Right. I mean, obviously, a whole creative environment is very inspiring for anybody, also. And working home alone in isolation, it's a little harder to do that. Although some people are very good at that particular
Yeah.
method. But now, I don't want to. I'm not asking for the origin story, because I guess
Give me one moment.
rather than going into the origin story, because I'm sure you've told it a million times, we don't need to do that. But I am curious about one thing, which I like to ask about. Shall we say pioneers like yourself in the documentary world? Because I've known Al Maisels and
Mhm.
D.A. Pennebaker and Fred Wiseman, and I don't mean to, go through the whole group of people
Right.
but people that were there in the beginning. And the only reason I bring it up is because there was no document. I mean, there was, but it was television. There was a specific type of
Mhm.
documentary being made back then. It wasn't considered a career choice. So I'm kind of wondering, just kind of that part of your story more than anything else, like how
Kind of my
that worked out.
personal story, right? Well, I actually I saw Ricky Leacock and Joyce Chopra's Happy Mother's Day when I was in college, and it was like, oh, that's what I want to do. You know, it was
Oh,
just
it's a aha moment.
yeah. And I was at the University of Chicago. There was no film department or anything, but actually a good liberal arts background was a very good. You know, I just started working right out of college. I already actually was working for people already while I was in college.
Mhm.
But when I went to interview for a job, I went, remember at CBS, and I was looking, you know, okay, they do film, they're sort of like documentaries, or, you know. And what I saw was that there were these like two career paths. You become a reporter or a writer, or you
Mhm.
become a camera person or a technician. And it was like, no, I want to make movies. You know, I want to make, and there just was no place for that. So I realized that I was going to have to somehow start my own thing. And we were the people you mentioned, you know, Leacock, Pennebaker, the Maisels brothers. I bought my first lens from Albert because we were all converting cameras to be crystal controlled, wireless, and fit up
Right.
on the shoulder.
Right.
Uh,
Pennebaker was key in doing that, right? In
yeah,
creating a lightweight.
Pennebaker designed the one that Bogdanich, I'm not saying his name quite right, but was building in New York. And the guy I was working for, Mike Shea, brought the first one of those cameras back to Chicago, and it was like $20,000 in those days, you know, which is an enormous amount of
Which
money.
was like $100,000
Yeah,
now,
yeah, it
something
would
like that.
just be an enormous, you know, very expensive. And I worked with him. And then as we were getting ready to start Kartemquin, I had a general camera conversion and, you know, had it on my shoulder. You know, I'd gotten a short lens from Albert with a short finder so I could get it up on my shoulder, but it was still connected by a wire to the sound guy. And I had a battery thing, you know, because it was the batteries weren't on the camera either. And I'm talking to my friend who's a physicist at the University of Chicago, and he says, well, I think we could build a crystal controlled power supply for a few $100s. And I was like, really, Danny? And we did. And so we had the second crystal controlled camera in Chicago. And I still have that camera. There's a short video about it camera
Of
won.
course there is.
An intern did a video about me, who then years later, she was the producer of Ashley's film, Morgan Johnson. Uh, but she made a film about the camera and all the technology involved in it and everything. And you know, it wasn't as elegant as the one that Mike had brought back from New York, where all the electronics were inside and everything. But we had a little box, and we had the batteries went in a little module right in the back of the camera. And so it's the only camera, you know, the only film camera that we hung on to, because it's a home brew, you know, you couldn't really sell it to somebody else.
Well, was there ever did you ever grapple with the idea of relocating to New York? Because, like, I guess Al
Yeah,
did, from Boston, I think, and although
that,
many like Errol Morris and Frederick Wiseman have stayed in Boston, for instance. So maybe it's a stupid question.
well, no, it's a good question, because at that time there was nothing in Chicago. There was no funding here. There was, you know, it was just a very difficult environment. But we made, when we started Kartemquin, Temner and I made a conscious decision. We're staying in Chicago. We're going to find a way
Hmm.
to make this. And now Chicago is a very different environment. There's all kinds of, there's foundations here. There's, you know,
Festivals.
festivals, all kinds of stuff. Uh, but that's always kind of been a core value of mine, which is, if you look at an industry, I know many years ago, I was on a panel about public television, and somebody says, well, can you tell us, what does public television want? And I said, that's the wrong question. The question is, what is it that you want to do? What's the story that needs to be told? And how do you make public television want that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, in a sense, that's one of the things that happened with Hoop Dreams, you know, where it was like a long battle to finally get people to see the value of what we were doing, and how important it was. It was not there at the beginning, but once it hit so big, it opened up a lot more interest in that kind of storytelling. And so, you know, it's like, yeah, we consciously planted our flag in Chicago,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and now it's
So,
a
because
part of Kartemquin's identity. We talk about being Midwestern filmmakers, and it influences your work, you know. It's like when we did a big series like The New Americans, in one sense, it's national. We're looking at people immigrating to America from all over the world, and we want to give that sense in different cities and different places. But it's no accident out of 7 stories, 2 are set in Chicago. You know what I mean? It's like, it's, when you're in a place, it makes a difference in terms of how you tell the story and what kind of stories you tell, and the relationship that you have over time to your subjects.
we talked about Steve James a little bit. He, of course, he was put on the map by his film Hoop Dreams, which was an enormous success. Unfortunately, I don't think it didn't win the Oscar, or did it? I don't think it did, right?
It
'Cause that was the
didn't even
whole
get a
thing, right?
nomination.
Yeah, yeah,
Got
yeah.
a
Because
nomination for editing.
yeah, no, I know it's
It's
an on.
brilliant, but
Oh, well,
it was a bit of a scandal. But as John Iltis, the guy who he was like our sales agent, he was in that building at that time, but he also had a PR business. And he was like, I know you're upset, guys, but really, this is incredible. Because it's like there was so much press, and, you know, it was a big story that we
yeah.
didn't get the
Well, I don't.
documentary nomination. And John was like, it's okay, guys.
Well, I don't remember what won that year. There wasn't a documentary category, was there?
Yeah, there was. I think
Okay.
that was
Uh,
it did. We didn't get a nomination in the documentary category, and there'd been talk of maybe we'd get a Best Picture nomination.
I could have seen that. That is still, because still I have my Criterion copy. I'm looking at it right now
Cool.
behind the.
Criterion is great. You know, we a lot of our films are with them, and we the quality with which they put together those DVDs, or, you know, the extras that they do, and that's,
Yeah. Did you work with them on something like that?
yeah, yeah. We work with them on many of our films they're there, you know. And just recently, after I got out of the hospital, I was doing a, you know, over Zoom. They were
Sure.
Abby was interviewing me, and I had the camera set up, you know, a little high def camera that I had at home. So we were on Zoom, but then I was able to send her the interview, for the extra they were doing.
Sure, sure. I would assume two entities like Criterion and Kartemquin probably could figure out how to do something remotely.
Yeah, we
You know,
solved the problem.
but I would say Hoop Dreams helped to usher in, maybe as Roger Me did, like up in northern Michigan or wherever, like they helped to usher in documentary form as a more popular film form.
Yeah,
And I can assume that maybe there was a time of growth in the 80s
yeah,
for you
yeah.
guys.
There was, and but we're,
Although that's
Hoop Dreams
90s,
got a
maybe
big
Hoop Dreams was
theatrical
90s.
release, and all of that was important. But we also had a big outreach campaign with Hoop Dreams, and it was very important for us to get the film to the families and the boys, that demographic who are portrayed in the film. So we had screenings all over the country. We had the theatrical release, we had schools that were bringing their kids on a field trip to a legitimate theater or regular theater to see a documentary about their, their world, their community. And often there'd be speakers or a panel and that kind of thing. So there was a lot of that done with the film.
And it's not a short film.
No, it's as the distributor told us, there are two things we don't want you to do. We don't want you to mention the word documentary, and we don't want you to mention that it's almost 3 hours long.
Yeah, right.
But people didn't perceive it as a long film.
Yeah, no, and time goes away. I find that true for even a Frederick Wiseman film, and I sat through the most recent one, City Hall. And what happens is you just get, if the film is good and it's powerful, it's got incredible story going, narrative and characters, is you just don't, after a while, you're not thinking about time and what the running time is of something. You get totally kind of hypnotized or entranced by the experience, and that's definitely what happened to many millions of people with Hoop Dreams.
Well, and right now it's on Hulu. City So Real, Steve's recent work, which was originally a 4 hour television series, and then when the pandemic happened and George Floyd and the demonstrations, Steve knew he had to pick it up and do another hour, which turned into an hour and a half. So now it's a 5.5 hour television series.
And that's on Hulu. I'm glad you mentioned that too.
Yeah.
It's called City So Real.
Yeah, City So Real.
And is there other projects that are of note right now that people should be looking out for that are available?
Well, Abacus is on, God, where is Abacus?
Well, I know at one time.
Abacus is on the Frontline site.
Okay.
And Minding the Gap is also on Hulu.
Bing
Hulu
Louis film.
Yeah, it was great to work with. And we have films coming out, Finding Ying Ying. I'm pretty sure that this has been announced now. Finding Ying Ying is going to be on MTV. So we've got a lot
And I think
of things that you can see. You can also see my last short film is available in the educational market, called 63 Boycott. And it's actually something I filmed back in that period when we were talking about, when I was looking, what's my career going to be? What's my, I was still a student at the University of Chicago when I filmed the original footage of the school boycott, and then finished it just, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
And I was born in 1963. And then Kartemquin was born in 1966, just to give people a little bit of a context. Well, thank you for this, and I am glad that you're feeling well, and I was concerned about that. But I knew you were back to work, so I figured. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's been quite a journey. You know, the other film that people should keep an eye out for, and it's in
Please.
festivals now. So if they sign up for our mailing list, kartemquin.com, then they'll get these announcements of films in festivals. It's
Good plug.
Dilemma of Desire, which is a terrific film that's
Say
in
it again.
Dilemma of Desire. It's about
Okay.
women's sexuality and women's desire by Maria Finitzu. And the only place to see it right now is in festivals.
Okay, so I'm not going to put you on the spot, but we can let people know. I'll look into where
Yeah,
what
it's on the
festival.
website. It just was, it may still be, I don't know if it's because of the, they have these COVID screenings, like, so it was in Doc NYC recently.
Oh, right. Oh, it was at Doc NYC where along with 76 Days actually, which is not a Kartemquin film, but I wanted to tell you when you brought up that MTV that it is an MTV film, so it'll probably be playing side by
No
side with
kidding. Okay,
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I just haven't had a chance to see it, and I'm in the academy, so they're all available to me through this portal, but I just have things to catch up on.
I know it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot when you're trying to make films and then you have to kind of, yeah. I finally have a screen for watching films here, and I'm up now in the Hudson Valley actually, but in New York, but I just got a portal link to the new director's new films series, so that is exciting.
Oh, is that
At a Lincoln Center and MoMA.
okay? Yeah, it's that MoMA thing, right? We
Well,
were in,
it's a collaboration between the
yeah,
programmers, between the between MoMA and
in
film
Lincoln Center.
film at Lincoln Center. Yeah, they do it every
That's
year.
more recent though, right? It was initially at MoMA.
I I don't know about that. I mean, as far back as I can recall,
It
they
was a
split the
collaboration.
screenings between the two institutions, and
I should know. We were in it with 63 Boycott, so I should know.
you were
Yeah,
because you were a new
the
filmmaker
screening,
then.
the screening was at MoMA, so that's what sticks in my
Sure,
mind.
sure. Well, you were a new filmmaker. You've also had stuff at Doc Fortnight, didn't you? Or maybe that's what you're thinking of. I think you're
I'm
thinking of
thinking
Doc.
of Doc Fortnight.
I
Yeah.
think you're thinking of Doc Fortnight because in 2000, I think that film was in 2018. Your film, the 63 Boycott film, was
That's probably
at
right. Yeah.
Doc Fortnight 2018. Because I did look that up because I was involved with a film that was at the year before, but I wanted to see if it was the same film, or rather same season, but it wasn't. The film I was in was the year before.
Yeah.
At Doc Fortnight. Yeah. But New Directors, New Films is not
It's a
typically known for
different thing.
documentary.
Yeah. It's a
Say again?
different thing. No,
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
just
different
saying it's a
festival.
different thing.
Yeah, but you're right. Doc Fortnight is only at MoMA and it's been around for a while as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'll let you get back to it. I'm just thrilled. Maybe we can do this again when we have another film to talk about or something like
All
that.
right.
But really, really
Yeah, I'm
happy.
trying to finish something now about hope to have it done like by January, about a left-handed pianist who only plays with the left hand. And it's an interesting story about a guy.
What was wrong with his right hand?
When he was a kid, his mentally ill father tried to kill him, and he was trying to kill him and his brothers, and he hit him in the head with a hammer, and his right side got paralyzed. But he went on to have a very successful career as a choir conductor, but all those years he kept playing classical music with his left hand, and there are these special pieces written,
Yes.
famous pieces. And so it's really about music. It's about a man who his life revolved around music
And resilience.
and resilience. Yeah, it's very much about resilience.
Well, you can relate.
Yeah.
You're a resilient guy. I'm thrilled to meet you, and we'll look forward to that documentary when it's done as well. Is it a feature? Or is it a short?
It's going to be a feature-length documentary. It's probably going to be about 75 minutes.
Very good. All right.
All right. Well, if we haven't met over the years, nice to meet you.
Same here.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right. Cool.
All right. I'll talk to you again soon, and I'll
Yeah.
forward the link to all this stuff to your guys over there. So
Okay.
maybe I know how much you want to watch it.
Well, thanks.
All
Okay.
right, thank you.
Right. Okay.
Bye bye now. Bye.
Bye-bye.